it's a long journey. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and you need to prepare yourself mentally. The same way you would prepare for a marathon, I think you need to prepare for fundraising. It always takes longer. It can be grueling. You have to iterate and improve upon your strategy and continue to train.
This next segment is brought to you by the Landman Office, the Emerald Triangle's premier land agents. The Landman Office is a full-service real estate company who uniquely specializes in rural, off-grid, and cultivation properties. Their versatile agents are knowledgeable in the sale and purchase of residential, commercial, industrial, investment, development, off-grid, cultivation, and timberland properties. Go to humboldtlandman.com for more information.
Welcome to another episode of Capital Cathy, the show that talks about women who have gone through the financing process for their business. With roughly 2% of investment capital going towards women-founded businesses, Capital Cathy discusses the hurdles women face in financing and how they navigate the waters to secure funding for their companies.
Today's episode, we have Andrea Brooks, founder of Sava, an online shopping platform for the cannabis industry. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we are excited to have you. Sava is an e-commerce platform that vets a variety of products in the industry and really handpicks the highest quality. Could you tell us a little bit about how you got started, where did the idea come from, and basically how you found yourself working in the cannabis industry?
Absolutely. Yeah, my previous career was, very different. I didn't have much ties to cannabis until I suffered an injury about 10 years ago. And this injury affected my spine and my nerves. And all of a sudden I became someone who was living with severe chronic pain. And I had a lot of mobility challenges, especially with my arms. I thought I would recover from this injury maximum a few months. But unfortunately, what I started hearing from my doctors was that I was permanently disabled and I wasn't going to work in an office again, and that I needed to come to terms with my new normal, which was devastating to hear. And I was also taking I was prescribed and was taking a ton of pain medications, which helped with the pain, but did not help with quality of life or any sort of recovery. A couple years into this unfortunate journey, I happened to connect with a friend who was a cultivator who gave me a very personal education of cannabis and how to use it for myself. And this is before CBD was, in the common vernacular. This is years ago. I had never heard of CBD before. I was wary of THC, but he was explaining to me, different ratios and things like that. And after working on a protocol with him, about a month of using cannabis, I weaned off all of the pain medications I had been taking for years. And coming out of that experience, the big question for me was, why didn't I come to cannabis sooner? And also wondering how many people are there out there like me whose lives could be greatly improved by understanding how to integrate cannabis into their lives. So I also felt delivery and receiving products to my home was preferable, especially as I had been so limited in my mobility. I love shopping online, and what I really wanted e-commerce experience that spoke to me, that was clear about who's making the products, who's the story behind the products, what's in the products, how to use them. And I didn't find that type of resource out there, especially one that focused on women and focused on supporting women-owned brands. And that is how Sava came to life.
What job did you have prior? What were you doing before that, added to, or that maybe caused this injury for you?
I was a consultant for NGOs and nonprofits. I focused on doing needs assessments and evaluating what an organization was trying to achieve, and working on creating new programming and also creating new revenue streams.
And realizing that you needed, basically, it sounds like because of your injury, it was more convenient for yourself, just like many other people that find themselves using cannabis in one way or another to get the delivery or to work with a company that, really delivers to you, especially for people that are suffering from physical ailments or chronic pain. Can you tell us a little bit about, what it's like to run an e-commerce platform, and on the B2B side, what is it like do you drop ship? Do you deliver? And when you work with these other companies, how do you orchestrate the back end?
So we are the whole ecosystem. So we do all the fulfillment ourselves, are connected to the licenses. The drivers are employees. So we're overseeing everything from, the customer signing up on the website and the whole user experience to the end where a customer is receiving a beautiful box to unwrap for themselves. So the whole process is within our ecosystem and part of our whole chain. A lot of it was a learning experience as we were regulating and navigating the regulated market. So there's been a lot of ups and downs and figuring out how to do it, but we curate the brands ourselves. We take in that product, and we are also overseeing all of the fulfillment.
Nice. That sounds like you are wearing multiple hats in that job. And I think any entrepreneur can certainly relate to, maybe a little trial and error, like we're learning as we go, and perfecting our craft. In today's cannabis industry, we know that testing and regulations are very important. Can you elaborate a little bit on how do you decide what products you're gonna work with, and what about certificate of analysis? And for those that don't know, a COA is basically your test results for the products. We know that there's a lot of counterfeit products out on the market. There's a lot of snake oil out there, and it's really important to source products that come with test results. Can you talk a little bit about how you decide and how you solidify what products Sava is going to use, and do you look at their test results? Do you have a minimum standard for the brands that you work with?
Yeah, absolutely. So having a really clear and distinctive curation process has been a part of Sava since the very beginning, and absolutely test results, we look at all of them. So we are only doing business with brands and distributors that are licensed, and all of these products get tested. But way beyond that, it's also what are the brands that come onto Sava and what we're looking for. So we are looking for value alignment and best practices in terms of making the medicine and something that is the highest quality. A lot of Sava is making sure that anything that is on the platform is something I feel comfortable putting in my own body. So when we're looking at brands, the very first thing we do is talk with the founder of the brand and make sure there's a values alignment. We ask how the cannabis was grown, where it was extracted, how the product is made. We also evaluate what's on the packaging. Is it clear how to take this product? Does it make sense? And in terms of evaluating packaging further, we also are looking for companies that are as environmentally forward as possible. There's unfortunately a lot of waste in the industry based on the fact that we have to have all this special type of packaging. So we're really looking at brands that are moving towards as much compostable and biodegradable packaging as possible. And if they're not there yet, we want to know that that's a part of their plan moving forward.
And so in that regard, running an e-commerce, even though it's online, it still takes a lot of legwork and a lot of planning and aligning yourself with brands that are like-minded. What are some of the hurdles of running an e-commerce or getting it off the ground? Could you tell us a little bit about what it was like for you to physically start this business?
Yeah, especially as my background was not e-commerce, right? So, but I think, as a consumer, I also knew what I wanted, and I was wanting something that didn't exist. So for me, some of it was just kind of research and making sure that I was understanding the market. But I would say, I say this all the time, like a critical component of success is having the right team around you and having the right co-founders. So as I was brainstorming this idea and knew what I wanted to create, one of my co-founders, Amanda Denz, she is the chief marketing officer, and she built the original version of the site, oversaw all the design, content, messaging, the voice of Sava. She really got what I was trying to do, and once we started working together, it just clicked and started to move really, really fast. So, you know, in the areas where I didn't have expertise, I was seeking out both partners and advisors that could help mentor me and get me up to speed.
Mm-hmm. And so can you tell us a little bit about what the Sava team looks like? How many, is it all women run, or is it, you know, all women founded? Who are you working with that there?
Yeah, it's all women founded. So there are three co-founders. So myself, Amanda, who I mentioned, and then there's also Megan Zori. She started off as our general counsel. So again, has been a part of Sava since its inception. And she moved into the COO role last year. So she's overseeing all the moving parts related to operations, as well as helping me with strategic partnership. So it's 100% female-led and founded. It is also LGBTQ founded. Both myself and Megan are queer, and so that's an important part of our story as well. And then other members of the senior leadership team happen to be women, but and we're proud of that. But we also have a very diverse group in terms of the total staff.
Excellent. You know, I've thought, you know, that the queer community is very underserved, especially in the cannabis industry. There's just not a lot of brands that are putting themselves out there enough, you know, to be completely inclusive and to be reflective of, you know, what every cannabis consumer looks like, you know, male, female, non-binary. You know, I mean, there's so many different people in this industry. And I think that's great that you guys are trying to be inclusive and really, you know, represent all that's out there. You know, cannabis consumers come in all different shapes and sizes, all different ages, and I really like hearing that. Can you tell us a little bit about what was the industry like when you started to where it is now?
I think that where it started was, again, you know, and I'm grateful for the improvements. I believe we're part of these improvements. The marketing has definitely improved. I would say a few years ago it was still geared towards the most potent high as quick as possible. So I don't always love using the terms recreational and medicinal because it leaves a big gap, but the recreational component was like, let's get you as high as possible. And then the medical component was very like medical and in that it was, you know, it wasn't always inclusive of wellness. And I think the gap in between is improving quality of life and wellness and how cannabis can be introduced in a day-to-day way. So there was this like big discrepancy in terms of how products were marketed, but also again, marketed with, you know, I think there's a lot of the stereotypes and, you know, big blinky pot leaves and not understanding how many different people through a marketing perspective that are interested in cannabis. We're seeing a lot more streamlined marketing that is savvy with regards to, you know, tackling a very specific customer demographic. And there's nothing wrong also with just wanting to smoke a joint and get high and relax. I am all for it. That can be an important part of quality of life as well. But really a lot of the education has come along so far, and I'm really excited about that, and I'm really excited for that to continue, specifically because you know, from my experience, I really believe that cannabis can completely transform your life, but it can also take experimenting with a couple different things, and without that education, there can be real missed opportunities. So I have a strong proclivity towards brands that really tackle that education and connect with their consumers.
Nice. So when, you mentioned being excited. I mean, so let's talk about fundraising. Let's talk about keeping the momentum going. We all know the world revolves around money sometimes, it feels like. And so, in order to build a successful brand, you got to go out there and you got to make those sales and you got to close on that financing. Can you talk a little bit about, the general attitude that women have when going into raising capital? Are they hopeful? Are they fearful? What did you feel? What did your team feel? Or what are you feeling, I'll say?
It's a long journey. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And you need to prepare yourself mentally. The same way you would prepare for a marathon, I think you need to prepare for fundraising. It always takes longer. It can be grueling. You have to iterate and improve upon your strategy and continue to train. I drill on questions every week to make sure I'm just as sharp and keeping up with, the different, even slight adjustments in metrics as our business continues to grow and improve. So I found it challenging from the get-go. I also have public speaking in my background, so that really helped me. But it's hard. You have to prepare yourself for a lot of, there's preparing yourself for rejection for all the different types of questions. No matter how many times I've pitched and talked to investors, I still get new questions. And, just staying on your toes. I also, a big lesson for me and something I tell other female entrepreneurs is to raise earlier and ask for more. Something I've witnessed in both myself and other female founders is I don't think they think as aggressively as some of our male counterparts. I always felt like, well, I can do all these things that a competitor is doing and I can do it for less. And so I'm just going to raise that money to prove myself. And it's great to continue to prove your business and prove concept, but you also should go for as much as you can get, especially in this industry, which goes through really major ups and downs. And right now, everything is about runway. And if you don't have enough runway to sustain your business, you're in trouble.
Right. I mean, you got to shoot for the moon hoping to land on a star. So you got to ask big. And I think, with a lot of our male counterparts is that they don't have that, apprehension that's been almost instilled in us women from, the beginning of our existence and, to be modest. And I think that, maybe one of the reasons why not enough capital is deployed to women is obviously I think the exposure is not there. I think that, a lot of women are just simply not meeting face to face with these venture capitalists and these investors. I think that that's one thing. And I also think that from my side, when I was fundraising, and like you said, it's a marathon, you don't stop. I mean, we're always fundraising, it feels like, or at least we did it all last year. We're still going through it again this year. Can you from my perspective, it was almost as like, can you hang with the boys club? Are you going to go to the strip clubs until 5 a.m? Are you going to go to the cigar bars? And a couple weeks ago, I had a brand new one. I was trekking around New York City with my banker and a group of investors, and my banker knows me well enough by now to know, don't tell Christina where we're going after dinner, because if it's a strip club or a cigar bar, she's going to go home. So they don't tell me anymore where we're going. They just say we're going out after dinner. And I have to say, this last time we went to a brothel out here in New York City, and I was flabbergasted. I literally was like, first of all, I can't believe this exists. And I can't believe that all these investor guys are into this, which kind of turned me off from them. Like at some point I was thinking to myself, like, I don't know a lot of people that would hang with this. It's all to get, the end goal. It's because we have a mission, a true, honest mission for our company, and we're looking to, accomplish XYZ. We need funding to make it happen, to, better the industry. And how far are some of us willing to go? And I know not everyone is in, that circumstance. Some people, they go to accelerator programs. They approach, venture capitalists directly. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've done? Have you gone on the mic to pitch, ArcView? What is your experience with venture capital?
Wow. So many feelings just came up as you were talking about that. I have also I've had those types of invitations and to go be one of the boys. Ultimately, I choose to do in the moment, and this can shift to what's really truly authentic to myself. I have pitched in numerous, different capacities, on a stage versus, one-on-one pitches or more like intimate groups. I've also had, aside from, invitations to activities that don't seem to really jive with me. And I have nothing against, strip clubs or anything like that. It's more the energy around it, and that do I have to play this specific game to proceed from point A to point B. I also have been invited up to hotel rooms in the evening to continue discussing my company. I highly doubt any of my male counterparts get texts at 11 or midnight to continue conversations in private rooms. So that's just something else of the female experience that I don't think gets discussed much. I think there's our own Me Too components that happen a lot in this industry that needs to come out more as women continue to be more vocal about it. But yeah, I've had all different types of pitching experiences. Sometimes I bring my team with me. Sometimes I go solo. We also have men on our team, all about having the right men supporting us and allies. I have a fantastic male advisor that, is with me at a lot of events. And, so sometimes it's like, it's playing the game in the way that's authentic to yourself, but also getting your message through to people.
Sometimes I look at these corporate cannabis companies that they have these massive and inflated evaluations, and I just wonder, like, did they work as hard as me to get $50,000? I have this sometimes this envious streak, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, did you have to go out? Did it take you 6 months to close on that, or did it take you 6 meetings?
I have had those words run through my brain a lot. I've seen companies with 1/10 of my revenue and more than 3 times my valuation raise way faster than me. And it's really hard to witness. It can feel demoralizing. I also have real numbers, and I do have real investors. And so that is, I get myself back up and keep moving, and I'm glad to have a supportive team. But I think that is still happening. My approach has always just to be a pragmatic businesswoman, but some of this also ties back to, are you asking for enough? And are you, not that you should then go out with a crazy valuation, but also, put all of the amazing things about your business out there, brag more. I think women are more humble, where, male counterparts just kind of get out there and throw out these projections. And in the beginning, I was always like, we're doing these great numbers, but I'd say like, but we're still doing this. And I was always kind of qualifying things rather than just coming out and being like, what we're doing is amazing. Look at this growth. Like, this is happening. Get on board now. And so I've evolved a lot in my journey. Some of that is just getting used to pitching and watching and learning. But, in addition to women needing to ask for more or ask for what they really truly need, which is usually more, is also just don't be afraid to brag. Don't be afraid to put it out there, but in a way that still feels authentic to you.
I agree. And hey, we're awesome. For every $1 that's invested in a woman-founded business, she returns $2, whereas our male counterpart returns $1. So, there's a lot of incredible women doing incredible companies that could really change the world, but we're just overlooked, or we're not putting ourselves out there as strong as our male counterparts. Because like you said, we are modest, and, society has kind of taught us to keep hush and, keep sweet almost, in a sense.
Be nice, be soft. Be welcoming. And it's, and then this is, all part of it is, you don't want to play the game just by emulating a man. And that's where I keep saying, like, be authentic to yourself. I'm not just going to look at some, male presenter and exactly replicate his speech style and mannerisms, but I can get to a point of better confidence within myself that feels really real. And then putting that out there.
Absolutely. So do you think, like, given the current state of cannabis, we went through the vape crisis last year, there are these atrocious inflated valuations, Canada just exploding on their markets. Do you think, given what's happened, it's made it easier or harder for us in the industry to raise funds going forward?
Unfortunately, it has made it so much harder. It's brutal. I think the shifts in the market last year and watching what happened in Canada and the impact of what these valuations, they all set, not just the companies that set the valuations up for failure, but kind of it set the industry up for failure, because while it again goes to like the sprint versus a marathon, this industry and all its potential is not going to happen overnight. Unfortunately, it's going to take a couple more years. We're still navigating all these changes in regulations and what these businesses are needing to do. And so it has been so much harder. I think raising is hard enough. And now you have investors that are concerned about what they've already deployed, and that makes them more hesitant to deploy further capital. They know not everyone, there's all these rumors of not everyone's going to make it. So is it just, people are going to wait each other out and see who's still here in 6 months and then invest? From my perspective, it's a great opportunity to continue investing, because there's also a lot of course correction with some companies that, are still going to, do very well, but maybe they're adjusting their valuation a little bit. But we also want to make sure we're not going to a place where valuations are just getting completely gutted beyond recognition because people just need a quick infusion. That's unfortunate, the opposite end. So there's an opportunity for course correction, but right now it is harder, and there still are the right investors out there that are deploying capital. It's just going to take longer. Raising money right now is not a blast. Not a blast.
No, we are all climbing to the top of the mountain, and coming from where the Emerald started, there's always we started in Humboldt County in the Emerald Triangle, and there was always this fear of corporate cannabis. There was almost a movement, in some parts of the industry to kind of like push off, taking investment capital as long as possible, because you didn't want to fall into this like corporate cannabis sphere. But I think, a lot of people can take capital if they are able to find it and really put it in the right areas. I think a lot of people are almost also apprehensive about fundraising because they don't want to be, they don't want to have to answer to investors. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you pulled off funds that you have and the investors that you're working with and the investors that you're looking for? Do you have deliverables to your investors? Can you tell us a little bit about sourcing the right investor? It's easy to say, oh, you have money, I'd love to take that, but you really want to be strategic about who you get into bed with, for lack of a better expression.
Yeah,
who are you going to work with? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a marriage of sorts. You are now going really deep with they're going to see, you're going to be very exposed in terms of your business, and this person's giving you their money and they're expecting something from you. And they want to see something from you. They want communication from you. So finding the right investors, yes, there has been money on the table that I have at times walked away from because I was very concerned about, what this investor was going to bring to the company and how they might change the culture, and maybe their demands were unrealistic, or it just seemed, that the vision was not aligned. So where you can be as specific as possible with your needs and who's the right fit, as much as you can, you should do that. I really look for investors that are legitimate value adds for me. We have a lot of different components to our business, and I like advisors who want to be engaged, who are, up for regular phone calls to work through certain problems with me. So I've really looked for investors that want to be engaged in the overall process. In terms of deliverables, that could be a monthly report, a quarterly report. It's really, important to be sharing with your investors the progress of your business, and making sure you're asking, for the investors that want to be involved, making sure that your asks are clear. I think most of the investors that I've talked with are happy to be involved and be engaged. And so being clear of what you need from them and how they can help you is pretty critical, because everyone's time seems, stretched more these days than ever. So dialing it in, like what sort of help you're looking for from your existing pool of investors, and as well as future investors. It can be about, maybe your seed investors helped you get to that one phase, but now if you're looking to scale even further, what's the investor that's going to help you do that? Is it an investor, for someone like me that has a pedigree in technology and e-commerce, that understands strategic partnerships, things like that?
Right. And it's kind of going back to what you said earlier about like identifying, your strengths and your weaknesses. And this individual excels over here in this area, whereas I do well over here in this area. And it is great to find a strategic investor that wants to be involved, but not overly involved. One's got that fear of too many cooks in the kitchen, got this direction, want to maintain the course. Finding the right investor is almost as equal to, if not better than, investment capital, because those partnerships or those connections that they may bring to the table could go a lot farther than dollars. So I think that's really important for people to realize and understand, do their due diligence on the investor themselves before they even lock into an agreement with them or raise expectations.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So can you tell us, how much are you going for this year? What are some of the things you're going to participate in? If people want to, meet you, or they want to familiarize themselves with the brand, are there any major events that they can see you in maybe the summertime or?
So in terms of, we're raising our second seed right now. The total amount that we are raising is $2.5 million, and we've closed on 850. So we're a third of the way there, and now we are really working on closing in the beginning of Q2 and pushing on that. In terms of where to find me and connect with me more about Sava, you can always connect with me online. I'm my LinkedIn. It's Andrea M. Brooks. Or just connecting with me directly through our website, which is getsava.com, or following us on Instagram. I do also present pretty regularly. I know I'm going to be presenting at a conference in LA in May. I'll be in New York at C3 in September. And I'm sure I will have additional engagements on the calendar for the summer pretty soon. So also, again, connecting directly with me or checking out the website is a great way to get in the loop. You can also sign up for our newsletter, which does talk about all the variety of events we are participating in.
I get a lot of newsletters every day, and some just look like copy and paste, but Sava's is very well curated. It's very well laid out. It's very clean. It's very digestible, and it's very clear on what it is that you guys are saying, and, to follow the brand. I would encourage anyone listening to also sign up for the Sava newsletter. Thank you so much for being on the show. For those listening, Andrea and I had to go back and forth a little bit a few times, but we got it. And I'm so happy to have you on the show, and I look forward to seeing where the company goes 2020 and 2021 and 2022, and more women behind the scene. We always could use more ladies on deck. And so I just want to say thank you very much for coming on with us today.
Thank you. I had such a great time, and maybe we can chat again soon.
Absolutely.